Well, hello there! What's this? Oh, just something I picked up from a big old purple pal of mine. I'm ridiculous, I'm so sorry. My good old buddy pal Thanos lent it to me to do this video, the top 10 Avengers 4 fan theories, since he's super amused by what y'all think is gonna happen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe's upcoming epic. Well, actually not really, but hey, haven't we all wanted to secretly know what it'd be like to wear a fully loaded Infinity Gauntlet? The answer to that burning question is it's as bulky as you think it would be, but still like really awesome. So many thumbs up. Well, our good pals at Marvel Studios are sponsoring this video in celebration of the release of Avengers Infinity War out on Blu-ray today. Take home a piece of cinematic history with the in-home release of the groundbreaking film, which features a bunch of never-before-revealed bonus content, including behind-the-scenes content, deleted scenes, a gag reel, and a bunch of on-set secrets from the filmmakers themselves, and much, much more. You guys can get your hand, or gauntlets, on Avengers Infinity War as a Cinematic Universe edition, which is a 4K HD plus Blu-ray and a digital copy, or as a multi-screen edition, which is just the Blu-ray and digital. Either way, get ready for a whole lot of awesome. So with that in mind, let's get to it. This is our list of the top 10 Avengers 4 fan theories. And of course, massive spoiler alerts, friends. Starting us off at number 10. Groot will grow out of Stormbreaker. Now during Infinity War, we saw Groot give part of himself to help complete Thor's new axe, Stormbreaker. Then, at the end of the film, Groot was one of the many characters who was dusted thanks to Thanos' snap that wiped out half of all living beings. But if we look at Groot's past, specifically Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, we know that Groot is capable of regrowing, meaning there is a very good chance that the character will return thanks to Thor's weapon. And if you consider the theory that there will be a significant time jump of a few years between Infinity War and the next Avengers movie, more on that later, then having Groot grow back into a teenage form or a young adult by the time we see him again is something that isn't totally impossible. You know what is possible though? The fact that I'm going to wear this the entire video. In at number 9, merging worlds. This fan theory is kind of a fanboy and fangirl's dream. So a little while back, some pretty major news broke about Disney and Fox's merger. A $71 billion deal that now gives 21st Century Fox assets to Disney. The deal will be set in stone in early 2019, meaning that Disney will have the rights to use Marvel properties that previously have been off limits, specifically the X-Men and Fantastic Four. One optimistic theory is that we'll see a character from one of these superhero teams make an appearance in Avengers 4, which will be released on April 26, 2019. This seems very unlikely given the time that the deal will be approved, and that's a bit of a risky move on the part of the filmmakers. Consider how much it costs to pay cast and crew alone for one whole production day. It'd be a major waste of money if they shot something and couldn't even use it. Next up at number 8, Nebula's survival. Despite Nebula's involvement in the Infinity Gauntlet comic, the 1991 story by Jim Starlin that much of the Infinity War film was based off of, fans of the franchise thought that she would be likely one of the characters to die in the movie. Surprise, surprise, she survived, with her and Tony Stark seemingly stranded on Titan. So why exactly have the filmmakers behind the MCU chosen to keep her alive? Well, one theory from a redditor named Lionheart28 attempts to answer that question. Since Infinity War shined a light on the villain's past through the side plot with Gamora, they believe that Avengers 4 will use Nebula as a tool to show us more of Thanos' past, but the darker side of it through her eyes, the adopted daughter that he tortured. They suggest, I quote, "In the Infinity Comic Saga, we know the condition that Nebula is in at the start, and her importance towards the end. I think in the next one of the first things Thanos will do will be kidnapping Nebula and make her life miserable, like the comic version. And through that we will see flashbacks of Nebula and Thanos' relationship over the years. With them we will see the madness of Thanos, the kind of madness that murders half of the universe. Murdering stuff." Coming in at number 7. Secret Invasion. One of the biggest question marks about the future of the MCU is how Captain Marvel will fit into the universe, and what her role will be concerning the fight against Thanos. Now we know that the Captain Marvel film will be exploring the Kree-Skrull War, which has led many people to believe that there will be some hint to the famous Secret Invasion storyline that occurred in the comics. Secret Invasion was a massive crossover event in 2008 that was about a long-term invasion of Earth via the Skrulls, who are a race capable of shape-shifting. The Skrulls had secretly replaced many superheroes in the Marvel universe with their own agents. While this may be a storyline explored later on down the line in the MCU, it seems that it wouldn't be something introduced in the next Avengers film, for the sake of overcrowding the narrative. It would also be a pretty left field addition, although some people have speculated that it would be an easy way to bring back those who have been dusted. In at number 6, Hawkeye is a Skrull. Speaking of Skrulls, another Skrull-based theory is that Hawkeye is actually a Skrull in disguise. Where does this come from? Two of the biggest absences in Infinity War were Ant-Man and Hawkeye. Ant-Man made sense. His sequel film was set to be the next title released after the third Avengers movie. But Hawkeye, one of the members of the original Avengers, felt like an odd choice to exclude. This has led many to speculate that there was a very specific reason as to why. While the most common theory is that his character Clint Barton will be adopting his Ronin persona, actor Jeremy Renner was sporting a new outfit that looked a whole lot like Ronin's threads, the other theory kicking around is that he's actually a Skrull in disguise, and that it's his character that will usher in the Kree-Skrull storyline in Captain Marvel. This is because aside from Black Widow, Hawkeye is the closest of the Avengers to Nick Fury, who will also be appearing in the Captain Marvel film. I don't know about you guys, but when I think of this theory, all I can think about is how Black Widow will take the news that her best pal has really been an alien all along, or already has enough trust issues. In at number 5, Doctor Strange. One theory from Redditor Overlord Baby J suggests that Doctor Strange will be the big hero of Avengers 4. As you know, when on Titan, Strange had looked into the future, scanning through 14,605 possibilities for the outcome of the battle, with only one of those possibilities being where the Avengers defeated Thanos. He then gave up the Time Stone to save Tony Stark's life, something that many people have used as a basis for theories as to why Stark will be critical to Thanos' downfall in Avengers 4. Now this theory, however, suggests that if all the souls that were snapped out of existence go into the Soul Stone, Strange's actually wouldn't. Instead, it would be summoned to the Living Tribunal, a council of celestial beings that, after the events of the Infinity Gauntlet comics, spoke to Adam Warlock concerning who should have the Infinity Gauntlet and the gems. But instead of that happening, because Adam Warlock isn't in the films yet, in Avengers 4 the Living Tribunal might challenge Strange to convince them why they shouldn't destroy the universe and remake it. Because, you know, Thanos is just gauntleted it up. But Strange, having seen how things could work out, convinces them not to destroy the universe. Rather, let things play out. And if the Avengers fail, they can do as they please. In at number 4, time travel. The time travel theory is the most popular and, quite frankly, most plausible theory that people have been discussing when it comes to the upcoming Avengers movie. It's rooted in the idea that Ant-Man, who has become more acquainted with the quantum realm since his sequel film that was set right before the events of Infinity War, will work with the Avengers to travel back in time in order to pull off a plan to stop Thanos from getting the Infinity Stones, or some sort of scheme along those lines. There have been set photos leaked featuring the Battle of New York with Ant-Man there, and Tony Stark wearing a shield jacket, along with the Avengers wearing a device on their wrist that could possibly be regulators used to navigate the quantum realm. Now, most theories have tied Captain Marvel into this too, since several sources working with the MCU have commented that understanding the quantum realm is essential for Captain Marvel's solo film, which is the next MCU feature slated for release next March. There's one problem with this theory currently though. Ant-Man is potentially stuck in the quantum realm after Hope, Hank, and Janet were all dusted in the post-credit scene of the film. Obviously he'll find a way out. Perhaps he'll end up in the 90s with Captain Marvel, which is when her solo film will be taking place, ultimately bringing her into the fray that way. Many also believe that Ant-Man will return years later from the quantum realm, which explains the time jump theories spawned by the fact that Cassie Lang has been recast as a teenager. And at number 3. Time travel memories. While the consensus is that Avengers 4 will revolve around time travel via the quantum realm, one theory that was spawned by things revealed in the book The Art of Ant-Man and the Wasp suggests that time travel will occur through the memories of the Avengers. So, for context, the book revealed that early on in pre-production, Marvel toyed with the idea of introducing a nexus at the heart of the quantum realm, where if you go deep enough, the laws of reality are completely void, and one can rewrite history. Concept artist Jackson Says said early on, there was almost a nexus inside the quantum realm that they wanted to explore, which was a quantum memory palace. I think they were discussing ideas about how Hank might actually be able to go into his own memories and change history. My ideas for the memory palace was what would be the most important, most striking memory that he has, and that would be when he loses Janet to the quantum realm when they were on that rocket for that one mission. That is his most scarring memory, and so his memory has been made up of that kind of imagery, but in a surreal state. So the panel of the rocket that Janet flew into is basically just repeated over and over. He's just zooming through this, reliving that mission flying through the sky. Now this memory-based form of time travel was ultimately removed from the movie, although in Ant-Man and the Wasp, Scott communicates with Janet via her past. There's actually a real scientific theory that suggests that the mind can time travel rather than the physical body. It's called chronesthesia. Now the idea behind this theory is that some form of chronesthesia could be used to access the Nexus via the Avengers' memories, therefore explaining why they're there at the Battle of New York. Perhaps Ant-Man's presence there being astral, and potentially Tony Stark's too, who was dressed in present attire rather than his Avengers attire from the first film in the set photos that were leaked. Now according to co-writer Christopher Marcus, Avengers 4 doesn't do what you think it does. It's a different movie than you think it is, which further supports this theory. Coming in at number 2. Tony Stark defeats Thanos. After Infinity War was released, the Russo brothers, the directors behind the film, revealed that Thanos held Iron Man in high respect because of the parallels between them. Both are futurists, both are constantly the smartest person in the room, and Stark was the one who technically defeated him in the Battle of New York, thwarting his plan. This has led some fans to believe that Tony Stark is destined to face off against Thanos again in the battle that will defeat the Mad Titan for good. Now Joe Russo said, I quote, "It's interesting because, as Thanos moves forward from this moment, once he disposes of his armor, he almost becomes a holy warrior, where he doesn't spend a lot of his energy intentionally trying to murder people, unless they are, in some way, a threat to his agenda. Almost no one ends up being a threat to the agenda except for Tony, who I think he feels has a sort of existential connection to Thanos. And finally, in at number 1, the snap was misdirection. In Ant-Man and the Wasp, we see Scott Lang make use of misdirection to escape his pursuers. While on his house arrest, he taught himself how to do magic tricks, which is a little skill he makes use of quite successfully later on in the film. There's also a line in which he's watching one of those magic tutorials online, and the dialogue in the video is this: snap your fingers. That gets them to look over there. Now that is misdirection. Easy peasy. And of course, people are now connecting the dots to the very literal and devastating snap that occurred in Infinity War. People believe that this Easter egg may be a hint to what the Avengers 4 film will entail, that Thanos' snap was actually a misdirection. Many think that this misdirection pertains to the characters who were dusted, that they aren't actually dead, but instead are elsewhere, perhaps inside the Soul Stone, or in an alternate reality. The other part of the theory suggests that this misdirection is that there is more behind Thanos' master plan. If you think about it, we didn't really fully get an in-depth reason for why Thanos was so hellbent on balancing out the universe, aside from what he told Gamora. Why has he so utterly devoted himself to this task? What kind of personal motivation forced him into deciding that this was the path that he needed to take? Or could the snap only have been the first part of his plan, with more to unravel in the next film? Perhaps Thanos is really the hero after all. The snap may have been horrific, but perhaps it was necessary in order to really save the universe, and it needed to be done in order to have the Avengers do what they need to do in this next movie. Oh, the possibilities. Alright, there we have it, friends. Which of these theories do you think has merit? And what are your predictions for the 4th Avengers film? Let us know your thoughts in those comments below. Also, once again, major thank you to Marvel for sponsoring this video. Avengers Infinity War crashes into homes on Blu-ray today. Be sure to check out all things MCU and Avengers by heading on over to their Facebook page, their Twitter, and their Instagram, all listed in the video description below. In the meantime though, thanks for watching everybody. Try not to snap you guys out of existence while I'm wearing this thing.